I've decided to step out of this race, and I'll let others worry about the election.
Oh, sorry, not sorry. The fact that that man could have been vice president is truly terrifying. Billions in fraud allowed under his watch, committed by his beloved constituency, fraudsters in the Somali community. Now, more on that embarrassment in a bit, but of course, he's not the only one we've had to say adieu to.
Good night. Good night. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I love that. Venezuelans are still celebrating all across the world tonight with their illegitimately elected autocrat gone. They now have a real shot at freedom at last. And for those crying that we're at war with Venezuela, President Trump told the NBC News outlet tonight that we're not. Instead, we're at war with the people that sell drugs. We're at war with the people that empty their prisons into our country and empty their drug addicts and empty their mental institutions into our country. We're not occupying Venezuela. Our military was in and out. Now, the Delta Force conducted a daring drop-down in the wee hours of Saturday morning after weeks of practicing the raid in an exact replica of the Maduro compound. It's fascinating. They stormed into Nicky's inner sanctum, scooped him up and his wife, and lifted them out, and they went to the USS FAFO, with none of our guys getting killed. Stunning.
Our warriors are the elite of America. No other country on planet Earth, and it's not even close, could pull this kind of operation off.
Well, that's the truth. But was this operation really about the 5-year-old indictment against Maduro for drug trafficking? Well, what's my view? It's the great American clawback. That's the focus of tonight's angle. Now, for any of you who thought that President Trump had been too soft in countering the threats posed by Russia or even China, the move against Venezuela's strongman should put your doubts to rest. In fact, taking Maduro into custody, I argue, was quintessentially MAGA. Now, why? Because Russia has been huddling with Venezuela for years. Maduro's worked with Putin to skirt oil sanctions and a lot more. And as for China, going back to the Hugo Chavez days, China needed oil for its economic expansion. Venezuela needed cash. So back in the early 2000s, the two countries struck a trade partnership that would yield more than $100 billion in financing promises from China in exchange for Venezuelan oil. The Chinese money financed railways and power plants, gave Caracas much-needed cash, wrote the New York Times. So what's next now for China's great trade deal with Venezuela? Well, guess what? Now we're in the driver's seat. A pro-China media outlet writing that the U.S. move calls into question China's future financial commitments in Latin America, potentially hurting Beijing's regional strategy. Oh, I love that. And how delish was it that Chinese officials were meeting with Maduro right before he was taken into custody? I love that. Now, the fact is, Trump's move was a needed global reset for the United States. It's a clawback of power squandered over decades by D.C.'s uniparty, which allowed our adversaries, most notably China, to get stronger economically and militarily, even in our own backyard. Now, it's going to be impossible for us, the United States, to keep America safe and strong if we do not first secure our own hemisphere from being infiltrated and ultimately dominated by hostile powers.
This is the Western Hemisphere. This is where we live. And we're not going to allow the Western Hemisphere to be used as a base of operation for our nation's adversaries and competitors and rivals of the United States.
Now, of course, Democrats, apparently they're just happy to have Russia and China exerting influence in our hemisphere. Their reaction to the capture of Maduro was predictable.
There's no question that the mission itself, the execution by our military was flawless, and we should applaud that. But the more important questions to me right now are, should we have done this, and what comes next?
He went on to talk about Iraq, and a facile, inapt comparison.
This isn't a country that's on the other side of the world. This isn't a country like where you have to travel 24 hours in an airplane. This is Venezuela. It's in our area.
There is no war against Venezuela or its people. We are not occupying a country. This was a law enforcement operation.
Then perhaps the dumbest question of the weekend came from Kristen Welker.
If the purpose of the operation was to capture Maduro and bring him to justice, why does the United States need to take over the Venezuelan oil industry?
We don't need Venezuela's oil. We have plenty of oil in the United States. What we're not going to allow is for the oil industry in Venezuela to be controlled by adversaries of the United States. You have to understand, why does China need their oil? Why does Russia need their oil? Why does Iran need their oil? They're not even in this continent. This is the Western Hemisphere. This is where we live. And we're not going to allow the Western Hemisphere to be a base of operation for adversaries, competitors, and rivals of the United States.
Bingo. It's time we all started living in the real world. And by the way, it's not 1996 any longer. It's clear that if we allowed China and other bad actors to have an operating hub inside Venezuela, our own security would be jeopardized. And it's not just about the oil or the minerals. It's just also about the geography. Yeah, the drugs are a concern, but frankly, because Trump so effectively locked down our border, it's not the main concern. It's bad enough that we allowed Cuba to exist as a communist satellite state for, 60 years plus now? But Trump knows allowing this to happen in a country like Venezuela? That would be calamitous. As it is, China is refusing to leave Panama, which is terrible for regional stability. So this raid is a warning shot to China, which seemed to be taken off guard here. Of course, Donald Trump will never totally close the door to diplomacy. He gave Maduro every chance to surrender. And he's using diplomacy everywhere he can to solve conflicts and avoid conflicts. In fact, some of us bristle sometimes at Trump's overtures to China, my friend President Xi and all that. But Trump's playing chess here. To counter China's move for global dominance, we have to get stronger. So the clawback means we're rebuilding our military. Hegseth's working on that. We're securing our own hemisphere. That's Rubio, Venezuela. We're rebuilding our industrial policy with tariffs. That's Greer and Lutnick. And we're growing our economy. Scott Bessent, thank you. So the way we beat, remember, the USSR was by beating them economically. Grew our military, but we were strong as an economic power. They just couldn't keep up. So in 10 or 20, even 30 years from now, we will not be free if China is calling the shots in our own hemisphere. So tonight, I'm telling you this. Pull up a chair. Watch this unfold. It's going to be a little risky, maybe at times bumpy, but Trump is the only rational path forward. That's what he's offering us. Other foes of America should be looking over their shoulders tonight. The great American clawback is underway. And that's the angle. Here to discuss.
Big, beautiful fireworks are going off right now over the nation's capital as Trump kicks off the countdown to America's 250th birthday. Venezuela got the new year started off with a bang, courtesy of Uncle Sam.
Amor. Ay, no.
After the clock struck midnight Friday and the skies were clear, the commander-in-chief signed off on one of the most audacious military operations in American history. 150 aircraft from over 20 bases in the Western Hemisphere took off towards Venezuelan airspace. Venezuelan seaports, military bases, and air defense systems came under attack. Communication, radar, and air defense systems neutralized and jammed, thanks to U.S. Cyber Command and Space Force. An elite team of Delta Force commandos flew low to the ground in Night Stalkers into the capital of Caracas at 1 a.m., catching the narco state completely by surprise. As the choppers approached their target, they were hit with enemy gunfire, but responded with overwhelming force. Explosions rang out throughout the capital, while an elite army unit blowtorched the doors off the fortress, hiding the narco tyrant Nicolas Maduro, a fugitive from justice. The president watched the action live from a secure room at Mar-a-Lago. Delta Force took out Maduro's Cuban security team and zeroed in on the dictator's lair. Maduro and his wife scrambled out of bed in their pajamas and headed to their steel safe room, but they didn't make it. He was apprehended, and the operation ended in less than 15 minutes. The dictator, handcuffed, blindfolded, and wearing a gray Nike sweatsuit, was sitting on the USS Iwo Jima on his way to American soil to face justice. And the next thing he knew, he was on a helicopter being flown directly over the Statue of Liberty. A little tour of the city right before he got booked and did his perp walk in Brooklyn.
Good night. Good night. Happy New Year.
Maduro and his wife are now being held in solitary confinement in one of the dingiest jails in America, where El Chapo, Diddy, Ghislaine Maxwell, and R. Kelly did time. This morning, Maduro and his wife pled not guilty to charges of narco-terrorism conspiracy, conspiracy to import cocaine, and weapons charges. So why the wife? Turns out she's the brains behind the operation, so she's getting charged too. But Maduro had options. Trump gave peace a chance. The dictator was offered an off-ramp to retire in the lap of luxury in Turkey. And now he's going to die in prison. It was one dance move too many for Venezuela's president, says the New York Times. The president felt like the dancing dictator was mocking him and trying to call his bluff.
Nicolas Maduro had his chance, just like Iran had their chance, until they didn't and until he didn't. He effed around, and he found out.
Maduro made the wrong move and bet on the wrong horse. Just hours before his arrest, Maduro was meeting with the Chinese, and the two nations claimed they were united. China, not a great ally. They can't even protect their own puppets. And the air defense systems they sold to Maduro didn't work. Our intelligence agencies were following his every move. A CIA team inside of Venezuela, a source inside the Venezuelan military, and American surveillance drones had Maduro's schedule down to a T. We knew what he ate, what he wore. We even knew about his pets.
We watched, we waited, we prepared, we remained patient and professional. This mission was meticulously planned, drawing lessons from decades of missions over the last many years. This was an audacious operation that only the United States could do.
It took 10 days and 27,000 soldiers for Bush 41 to capture Noriega in Panama. And it took Donald Trump and a Delta Force team an hour to nab Maduro in Venezuela. Not a single American soldier perished. The operation was precise, surgical, and swift. Even Obama's top spy couldn't spin it.
U.S. military and U.S. intelligence are second to none in terms of their capabilities, their competence, talent, as well as their courageous actions. And so it does look as though it was a flawlessly executed operation.
Operation Absolute Resolve sent a clear and convincing message to every enemy capital in the world.
They will be impressed with the military capability here. I would argue none of those three militaries could have executed an operation like this. They'll be saying to themselves, that's a very capable military. That's not a bad thought to pop up in Beijing, Moscow, and Tehran these days.
The narco tyrant was harboring Chinese and Russian spies, plus Hezbollah. They were in business with the Colombian cartels and guerrillas, pouring migrants, gangs, and drugs into our country. And they stole our oil leases and handed them to Beijing. No bueno. Smoking coke boats was just the appetizer. Maduro had been under indictment for years. He was a fugitive with a $50 million bounty on his head, and now he's ours. The long arm of the law will find you if you're a narco-terrorist, an arms trafficker, a tax cheat, or even a sex trafficker hiding on an island. This was about justice once and for all. So what's next?
Is the United States now at war with Venezuela?
There's not a war. I mean, we are at war against drug trafficking organizations. It's not a war against Venezuela. We are enforcing American laws with regards to oil sanctions. We have sanctioned entities. We go to court. We get a warrant. We seize those boats with oil, and that will continue.
This is about stopping a war, not starting one. And it's not over yet. This was not regime change. The regime's still intact. This is about changing the regime's behavior. Maduro's vice president was sworn in. Ms. Rodriguez still controls the security, military, and administrative state. The man who runs Maduro's paramilitary unit, still alive. The generals, still there. CBS, apparently not impressed with the mission, wonders, why didn't we just arrest the whole regime?
I'm confused. Are they still wanted by the United States? Why didn't you arrest them if you are taking out the narco-terrorist regime?
You're confused? It is not easy to land helicopters in the middle of the largest military base in the country. The guy lived on a military base. Land within 3 minutes, kick down his door, grab him, put him in handcuffs, read him his rights, put him in a helicopter, and leave the country without losing any American or any American assets. That's not an easy mission. And you're asking me why didn't we do that in 5 other places at the same time?
Do you hear yourself, Margaret? Capturing Maduro is just the beginning of the plan. From now on, Trump's the man of the house.
Who's in charge of Venezuela right now? Have you spoken to the newly sworn-in president there, Rodriguez? And what are your thoughts on the entire situation? You said the U.S. would run Venezuela.
We're dealing with the people. We're dealing with the people that just got sworn in. And don't ask me who's in charge, because I'll give you an answer and it'll be very controversial.
What does that mean?
It means we're in charge.
Toppling dictators doesn't take you to the promised land. America's learned that the hard way. Democracy down there is going to take time. Maduro lost his last election in a landslide, but he didn't leave. The military and state officials are still stacked with loyalists and thieves. The Venezuela project's day to day, and we're looking for people who we can work with or pay off. In the meantime, we have a naval blockade which controls their cash flow, and gunboats parked offshore to control their behavior.
We have a quarantine on their oil. That means their economy will not be able to move forward until the conditions that are in the national interest of the United States and the interest of the Venezuelan people are met.
Let me ask the question again. What is the legal authority for the United States to be running Venezuela?
Well, I explained to you what our goals are and how we're going to use the leverage to make it happen.
Are you running Venezuela right now?
George, I've explained again that the leverage that we have here is the leverage of the quarantine.
Venezuela is like the Spanish Saudi Arabia. They have more proven oil reserves than anywhere in the world. Over 300 billion barrels. That's like a quarter of the world's reserves just sitting in our backyard, being squandered by thugs and communists. The oil leases were stolen from American companies. The infrastructure was left to rot. And whatever revenue they were able to squeeze out, they lined their own pockets and bribed their patrons. Once American companies produce what's rightfully theirs, energy prices go even lower, and so does inflation. It also means the Chinese will be buying the oil from us. The Iranians, they lose a customer, and low prices starve Putin's war machine in Ukraine. The American and Venezuelan people can both make money now, and we don't have to worry about a failed narco state on our doorstep.
Why does the United States need to take over the Venezuelan oil industry?
Why does China need their oil? Why does Russia need their oil? Why does Iran need their oil? They're not even in this continent. This is the Western Hemisphere. This is where we live. They are not going to come from outside of our hemisphere, destabilize our region in our own backyard, and us have to pay the price for it. Not under President Trump.
The Trump administration's pivoting away from the Middle East, making NATO share the burden in Europe, and refocusing on the Western Hemisphere. We're not going to let our own neighborhood become blighted with drug dens and Russian puppets and Chinese speculators. This is about protecting our neighborhood, not somebody else's. Venezuela's not the only country in the neighborhood getting attention. Every leftist puppet government is now on notice. Who knows who's next? An armada in the Caribbean controlling Venezuelan oil, especially after we regain control of the Panama Canal, puts pressure on a lot of countries, including the one country producing all the coke. That would be...
Colombia is very sick, too, run by a sick man who likes making cocaine and selling it to the United States. And he's not going to be doing it very long, let me tell you.
So there will be an operation by the U.S. and...
It sounds good to me.
The price of cocaine's about to go sky high, but Gutfeld can afford it. The president of Colombia leaves office this year anyway, so the new guy better read the room. At least a half a dozen Latin American governments have elected right-wing, pro-American leaders in the last 2 years. Communist-backed leftists are on a massive losing streak, and China's Belt and Road initiatives collapsed. We're winning the Western Hemisphere. And technically, this country is in the Western Hemisphere.
We need Greenland from a national security situation. It's so strategic. Right now, Greenland is covered with Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. Oh, I don't want to talk about Greenland now. I just say this. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security, and the European Union needs us to have it.
Between the attacks on Iran's nuke site and the Maduro operation, American deterrence is back. The U.S. military, fresh off their Christmas bonuses, are feeling the love. Recruitment at an all-time high. DEI is dead, and the Secretary of War has their back.
You're about to do a tough job. You're about to go do some tough basic training that's got, we hope, a little bit tougher under this administration to prepare you, to forge you to be the warriors that our nation requires. To do the kind of things that happened over downtown Caracas, Venezuela in the middle of the night, just a couple of nights ago.
America is already, well, let's just leave it at that.
Wow. I missed you. I missed you. I missed you. So, all right, enough. I don't miss you that much. Happy Monday, everyone. So Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro is being held at a New York City jail, just like Jeffrey Epstein was. But don't worry, he will be under careful watch of their new head prison guard. Meanwhile, President Trump said that the U.S. was going to run Venezuela until there could be a safe transition of power, and he has complete confidence in their new temporary leader, Marco Rubio. President Trump's capture of Maduro was known as Operation Absolute Resolve. Kamala Harris chimed in saying, "You had me at absolute." Good for her. According to the New York Times, Trump was reportedly so put off by Maduro's dance moves that he gave the order to remove the dictator from power, prompting every white guy at a wedding to go into hiding. After the U.S. captured Maduro, Hezbollah condemned American terrorism and thuggery against Venezuela. The raid was also condemned by Lesbollah. You guys love a good pun. After the extraction, President Trump warned Colombian President Gustavo Petro that he needs to watch his ass. Yeah, one man has already volunteered for duty. And before they have any elections in Venezuela, Trump says he wants to restore law and order. And if he's successful, he plans on bringing back T.J. Hooker.
Good show.
Amid the billion-dollar Somali fraud scandal, Tim Walz has dropped out of the Minnesota governor's race. But he says he wants to concentrate on his new career, running a Somali daycare. And finally, a man who pretends to be a woman was reportedly caught masturbating in a Planet Fitness bathroom. In other news, I've been banned from Planet Fitness. So what did I miss? Well, nothing. And that's the point. Because if you've been paying attention, nothing Donald Trump does should surprise you by now. It's like being shocked every time I seduce your mom. But Trump is a man of action, and when the action has a big upside and minimal risk, he takes it. He doesn't hold a seminar. He doesn't ask Europe how they feel about it. He just does it. And on Saturday, he did it. Now, are there good reasons to capture Maduro? Sure, drugs. But there's so much more. Venezuela sucks as a neighbor. It's like living next to a crack den, where the problem isn't just the crack, it's the lowlifes it attracts. Venezuela didn't just become a mess that plunged its citizens into a nightmare of hunger, violence, and corruption. It became a summer camp for the worst anti-American forces. Every thug, terrorist, international operative that hates our guts. Tren de Aragua, Hezbollah, Chinese agents. The country was full of more bad hombres than a P. Diddy freak-off on Cinco de Mayo. Yeah, that's bad. And Maduro wasn't even Venezuela's guy. His last election win was as legit as Ilhan Omar's marriage license. This tyrant turned a country sitting on a lake of oil into a toxic landfill and then dared the rest of the world to complain. And it's funny how you only hear international law when America does something, but not when your lawless neighbor is throwing poisonous drugs and violent people over your fence. What an asset having a president who does what he says he'll do. No BS red lines, no diplomacy based on don't, which was Kamala's warning to Iran, and also to the bartender who tried to cut her off at Applebee's. Maduro's extraction sends a message to Venezuela, but also to Colombia, Mexico, Iran, and China. The message, you F around, Trump will give a master class in finding out. Remember TACO, the Democrats' acronym that stood for Trump always chickens out? Well, ask Khomeini and Maduro. Trump hit them with so many tomahawks, Liz Warren slammed the flap on her teepee. Now our enemies recognize the pattern, blowing up ships, capturing warlords, taking out nuclear facilities. Trump is living in a Michael Bay movie, where in every third scene, he's walking away from an explosion. And it creates changes in behavior. Who knows, maybe Maduro asked to be captured instead of getting turned into New Year's Eve confetti. He certainly couldn't leave on one of those Coke boats, which have been blowing up like a plus-size model's ass around the holidays. And in case you're asking, why didn't Trump do Mexico first? They are, after all, the main source of fentanyl. Sure, but that's not how you do things. You start with the easy part first, and then you work your way up, sending a message along the way. Also, those fentanyl precursors were sourced from China. And where were senior Chinese diplomats hours before Maduro was captured? Caracas. It's where they provide loans and support in exchange for oil. 2 birds, 1 stone. But as Trump gets more done in foreign policy than anyone, domestically he's stuck fighting a swamp of corruption. It's a good comparison to the Democrats' skill set versus the Trump mindset. With Trump, you got America first. Democrats, they never believed America should be first in anything except self-hate. So they hide their fraud inside complexity, government programs, posturing legislation, foreign policy jargon, international law. Meanwhile, they're just too virtuous to ensure the safety of Americans. But the funniest part? What Trump is doing now ends up helping those morons, too. If energy prices keep dropping, crime keeps falling, drug traffickers and illegals keep leaving, suddenly the commie mayors across the country have easier jobs to ignore. That's the Trump effect. He makes America safer, even for corrupt, retarded douchebags.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.